Imagine, if you will, an organization without traditional hierarchies. What does leadership look like in this new paradigm? Well, rise and shine leaders. This is Glen Guyton, keynote speaker and workplace trainer, here for our executive coffee break. I've got my beverage in hand. I hope you have yours too. They say that you can't choose your family, but you can choose your workplace culture and your beverage. Today, I'm drinking my Brazilian coffee out of my Houston Oilers mug, and no coffee, no cream in my coffee today, just straight coffee. Hopefully that keeps my voice from sounding so crazy in the morning. But hey, leadership matters, so you might as well get good at it. Today we are diving into the concept of teal organizations and what leadership looks like without traditional hierarchies. Let's explore this transformative approach together. Look, I even have my teal on this morning. We are bringing some information from this book, Reinventing Organizations. I even have a teal notebook. This is a wonderful notebook, by the way. This is a rocket book. If you ever need to take notes in meetings and you're tired of just keeping different notebooks, get this. And you can write in it, and then you can just erase things, and you can send it the notes you take electronically. Get one of these. This is great. This is a great tool. I love it. So get you one of those. I don't even get paid to say that. It's just a wonderful tool. Rocket Book. Look it up. It's great. Okay, so the shift to teal organizations. Go back and check out the other coffee breaks if you want to get to day one when we talk about reinventing organizations. But today I want to talk about a teal organization, and again from this book by Frederic Leleu. He talks about these different color organizations, and so today we are focusing on teal organizations, which is just the highest level of the evolution of organizations according to this book. So in the spectrum of organizational development, teal represents a breakthrough where companies move beyond the constraints of conventional structures to embrace self-management, wholeness, and evolutionary purpose. Imagine a workplace where roles are fluid, so no like real titles, hierarchy. Uh, Leadership is distributed in different ways, and the organization's direction is guided by its own evolutionary purpose. This isn't just a dream, it's a reality for those that are daring enough to reimagine their organizational model. Sounds kind of scary, doesn't it? Right? For some organizations, if you aren't used to that, if you have more traditional leaders and bosses, it seems like a difficult shift. And I've worked for a number of organizations. I've worked in the military, and definitely the military is not probably going to be doing this, even though they're struggling with finding and retaining top talent. So, what are some of the principles of teal leadership as I understand it? Leadership within a teal organization is radically different. Gone are the days of top-down decision making. In this place, we find a model where leadership is a role and responsibility shared by all. I mean, that's an interesting concept, right? It's about empowering everyone to lead in their areas of expertise, to make decisions close to the actions and align their work with the organization's core purpose. This, so think about that. This is about trust, collaboration, and again, innovation. Um, I've led a number of teams, and I actually had my first boss. It was in the nonprofit sector. My first boss just trusted me to do my job. Right. I understood what the driving force was behind the organization I was a part of. My boss definitely was in charge, but it didn't feel heavy. Right. His leadership did not feel heavy to me. We were part of the decision making process. Uh, and the division that I was in charge of, I could make the decisions. Now, sometimes I would check some ideas with him, and he would say, "That's a little bit too much, Glenn," or "Yeah, I don't know how people would feel about that." Then I would change course. But for the most part, I was given a great deal of autonomy, even though we had a system of feedback and checking in, and we all met together to talk about plans and things like that. Now, in this book, uh, you don't necessarily have these executive meetings. I mean, you do have to check in, but you don't necessarily have these routine just meetings that you have all the time that just waste a lot of time. Um, but people are given the autonomy to make decisions, and you build trust because you have the heart of the organization. I don't know how else to put it. We want people to have the heart of the organization. We want our leaders to have the heart of the organization, to believe in the organization. And I was firmly committed to the organization. I loved it. It was great, especially for me being a young leader. I moved out of the military into this organization. They probably wouldn't even known it was Teal at the time. And they actually let me say this. They actually tried to hire some people, or to turn the leadership over to people that were really more hierarchical, and really micromanaged every aspect of the job. And you had to fill out this paperwork to get this done, this paperwork to get this done. They hired a kind of a foreman type position, and it just didn't go well. I mean, I had to go to my boss and say, hey, look, this ain't working. I can't work here no more if this is how we're gonna to operate, because we shifted back to this real hierarchical structure with this controlling power. And I almost quit. I did. I almost quit. But fortunately, I stayed there for a long time. Leadership changed back to one of trust and openness and empowerment and collaboration, and it felt much better versus a more militaristic style of leadership. So you have to think about that. What do you want for your organization? Are you willing to take some risk and do things in a radically different way? I mean, I think you can, but some things that will happen. How do you make that transition? So how do you go to a more Teal like organization? Shifting to a Teal organization is both challenging and rewarding. It begins with a change of mindset, seeing the organization as a living entity with its own sense of direction. And in this country, we kind of define corporations as people, right? So this is not too radical, right? Because we already say that corporations, these organizations, are people. They're entities. They have this legal standing. We form LLCs and other types of business structures to limit liability, but also to encapsulate the identity of an organization. And so, if we're going to do that in a legal sense, let's do that in a mindset sense. Leaders have to learn to let go of control. Ooh, that's a hard thing for some of you all, right? Uh, you have to trust the collective intelligence of your teams, and you have to be vulnerable. You can't just think of things in these strict layers of leadership. You have to be vulnerable. And for some of you that are leaving the military, that might be a little bit hard for you. I have a lot of friends. Again, I'm a graduate of the United States Air Force Academy. I have a lot of friends that have been in the military, and that shift from military to civilian is different. You have to lead differently as a civilian. I had to learn that because in the military things are pretty much, for the most part, black and white. Like, hey, if you have this rank, you outrank this person, and if this person tells you what to do, you do it for the most part, right? It's a strict hierarchy, and people will salute you and do what you say because you're sir, right? You're an officer. As a second lieutenant, I got out of the military, and a chief that had been in 20 years had to call me sir. Now, I wasn't dumb enough to think that I knew more than the chief, but in the sense of the military, I outranked that person, and they technically had to do what I said. And in a lot of cases, chiefs will do that. They'll find a way to get around it sometimes, but you have to follow that hierarchy. You follow the orders of your superiors. It's not a back and forth for the most part. But when I got into the civilian world, you got to earn some of that respect. You don't just earn the respect of the rank or the position. You have to earn it a little bit more. And so, why not shift our mindset and embrace some of that ambiguity, and let's trust our teams. Let's trust the people that we hire. So I know you're thinking like, hey, how do I actually get there? Well, first of all, hire better people, right? Hire better people. You're gonna have to work a little bit harder on the front end to get to people that can handle that type of leadership. You're gonna have to have really good core values for your organization. You're gonna have to repeat those over and over again to people so they understand who you are. And like that famous line from the movie Along Came a Spider, that's one of my favorite lines. It says that you do what you are. Organizations need to live into that. You do what you are. if you've seen that movie with Morgan Freeman, he says, the lady Jesse says to him, she said, "You mean you are what you do?" No, he said, "You do what you are, and what you do, you don't betray." That's the real key for organizations. Don't betray who you are, your identity. Stick to those values. Um, as an organization, make sure they're clearly defined. And so you have to cultivate a new mindset. You have to hire better people. You have to allow them to start building that leadership skill. When I first got hired by the organization I was talking about, I didn't just start doing everything um, and just had this total trust. No, I had to build that trust up. I started with some small things, but I was empowered to do those things. And again, you have to let people make mistakes. Explain to them explain to them what you want to do when you're starting, maybe even how you want to do it, how you're going to hold them accountable, and then let them go. Let them dream. Let them imagine new ways of doing things that you may not have even considered as a leader. That takes a lot of trust. So now, am I fully sold on some of the principles in here? I don't know if I'm fully sold, but I do think it's worth thinking about when you are in a leadership role. And so some of the other things about Teal organizations, they have self organizing teams. I do supervise a number of people, and I let them kind of do a lot of their hiring. They hire the people that they think are good. I ask a few questions to make sure that whoever they hire, it lines up with our organizational values. But it's important to let them find people that they want to work with, not who Glenn necessarily wants to work with. Because I'm not necessarily working with them at that level. Uh, Simplified project management. Again, thinking about the other organization I was part of, it was just hard to get anything done. We want to be agile, right? And part of this, the characteristics of this Teal type organization is that it's an agile organization, and that's so important as we think about what we want to accomplish in the 21st century, right? We need we need organizations that can respond quickly, especially to cultural shifts, to cultural disruption. How do we quickly respond? Just think about the political scene that we have going on and how it's going to impact your organization. Have you thought about that? Have you thought about that? We are in an increasingly polarized time with this election that's coming up. And I don't care what side you are. I don't care if you're voting for Biden. I don't care if you're voting for Trump. I don't care if you're voting for what's that, the Kennedy guy. I don't care if you're voting for Kamala. Whoever you are voting for, those politicians are polarizing. And when that election hits, or when the results of the election come out in November, it's gonna potentially disrupt your workforce, and it may even, depending on who is elected, it could really radically change some of the laws and policies of this country. It really can, and of course, I know how government works, right? It's not the president, but it's Congress and all those things. But these are just different times. These are different challenging times. I think the political uh, environment has changed. I think pretty significantly, or maybe more significantly than it has in the last 50 years. Maybe we had some of this when back in the 60s and the 70s and during the civil rights era, but that's been 50 years ago, right? So now we're back into another cycle of disruption. And go back and look at some history from the civil rights era and how business was impacted by the political scene. That's coming back. Believe me, it's coming back. The signs are all there. You don't have to be a futurist to understand that. Pay attention to culture. We're getting ready to have a shift. So Teal organizations will be able to adapt and to meet these challenges. Why? Because you will understand your team, and your team will understand the things that you are trying to do. I've been, February is Black History Month, so I've seen a number of organizations talking about their history. So, there is some concern with some about DEI now and being woke and all this other stuff. But there have been many organizations that have made conscious decisions not to participate in uh, segregation and other laws of the land at the time in order to serve their communities, right? So they've gone beyond whatever the polarizations were at the time and say, hey, we're going to try a different approach. And so I think we all need to consider that. What approach will you take that will allow you to be relevant and to capture the market, to capture uh, an opportunity that your competitors may not have. So think about this as you lead your teams. What are you doing that you can change in your organization? How can you shift your leadership style? How can you build more trust and collaboration? We'll talk a little bit about that if you join me regularly. But as we get ready to close, let's not forget the strength and perseverance that it takes to lead with empathy and inclusivity. Better leaders get better results. So, to every one of you leading the charge for a more supportive and engaging workplace, I leave you with this: stay bold, stay inspired, and remember that your actions today shape the culture of tomorrow. Thank you for joining me for the Executive Coffee Break. Until next time, keep reimagining leadership in the 21st century. I'm Glen Guyton. Bye bye.